Dissolve the apartheid
So what would you like to see happen, Hassan?
Do you not understand the English language?
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is the HASAN broadcast coming to you live from very cold and snowy New York City, New York, baby. We're live, we're alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and MBs are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. Today is the 7th of February. It's Saturday. We're live, we're alive, and I hope everyone's having a wonderful time. Another theory that I have, as I have many theories, as you know, is that a lot of blue no matter who people are simply regime loyalists. They fancy themselves to be more intelligent than the MAGA cult, but they sometimes engage in cultish thinking as well. I think a lot of people that present themselves as like diehard, riding with Biden supporters, riding with Kamala supporters, don't necessarily have like a real ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism, but instead have a loyalty to the Democrats because they believe in the harm reduction theory. Now, the harm reduction theory is correct. The problem with the harm reduction theory, however, is that one, it doesn't go far enough in terms of protecting the marginalized identities that it's supposed to protect. It's just simply better in comparison to the Republicans, and year over year it just gets worse and worse for the base of support because the Republicans are constantly ratcheting the country in a rightward trajectory. And harm reduction theory is obviously demonstrably a failure in terms of drawing out voters, right? It doesn't fucking work. So technically it fails in reducing harm. It's not harm reduction necessarily, but it's harm delay. And even then, it's not even doing harm delay because you end up losing if that's the only reason why people should vote for you. If the argument you're presenting is we're better than the Republicans marginally, clearly that's not enough for people to come out and vote for you, right? Having said that, the reason why my theory is that a lot of these guys are just like regime pilled. They're simply regime pilled and going along with whatever the regime presents them, and they're defending it unconditionally is because of that one massive Democratic Party booster, STACY CAY. I had some understandable but mild criticism in the direction of ZOHRAN MAMDANI and the timing of his endorsement of Kathy Hochul. Pops to Knox posted that criticism, that mild criticism, to which, once again, as you guys know, ZOHRAN is ideologically the closest elected I have. He is not only someone who I am, personally connected to, but also someone who I find to be the closest to my worldview, a person who is a self-described socialist. Some of you may disagree with that. Not only do I feel like demographically represented by a politician, 34-year-old, socialist, Muslim, anti-Zionist, all this stuff, but also there is this ideological representation that I have, closer than probably many other congresspersons with the exception of maybe like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. So in spite of all of that, and in spite of all the efforts that this community has poured into getting ZOHRAN Mamdani, an underdog, elected into a nationally prominent position of power, although I'm, critical of him in this moment. Pops on Arxa writes, Hassan Piker disagrees with ZOHRAN Mamdani's decision to endorse Kathy Hochul. There's no guarantee that Kathy Hochul is going to turn around and do anything for ZOHRAN once she secures power. While Hochul has signed off on universal pre-K, there's a lot more in ZOHRAN's agenda she has to sign off on, especially a wealth tax. If ZOHRAN waits in this moment, he could take advantage of Delgado putting pressure on Hochul to assume more left-wing positions. So it's not necessarily that I have an issue with like even an endorsement of Kathy Hochul at all. Doing this amidst a massive strike with 15,000 nurses in New York City at a time when Hochul has extended the emergency to not give in to their demands is unimaginably bad, right? It's just like a bad time to do this. I know he wanted to do this to get ahead of the New York Democratic Party's like obvious endorsement where Kathy Hochul secured like 85%, all this stuff. But regardless, you don't have to put yourself out there. You don't have to present yourself as a defender of the machine at all. This is not necessarily an argument about like why endorse Kathy Hochul at all. I understand the political machinations at play here. I understand the reasons as to why you would do such a thing. I just don't agree with the timing of it. The point is, you should disagree with your electeds. You can have healthy disagreements. That doesn't mean that you write them off. That doesn't mean that they've betrayed the revolution. That doesn't mean anything until, they show themselves to be a betrayer, I guess, right? I don't think ZOHRAN is there yet, right? I mean, but it's fine. It's like it's normal and healthy to have reasonable disagreements from time to time. What's interesting about it is here is the difference between someone having a healthy disagreement with someone who is ideologically on their side. Me versus a regime enjoyer. Stacey K says, I honestly think ZOHRAN MAMDANI is better at politics than Hasan. To which I responded with, I respect how much you ride for the regime. If the Democratic Party was a communist one, you'd be a communist. Maybe one day. To which she replied with, yeah, actually, I would defend an elected communist over unfair criticism from streamers, which is kind of what I'm currently doing. To which I replied with, precisely my point. And then posted an image of the most loyal servants of the Cultural Revolution, the Red Guard. Now, it's funny because she's like also calling ZOHRAN MAMDANI a communist. That wasn't what I was saying at all. I don't think she took anything away from your back and forth, to be honest. Getting dunked on by Hasan for defending ZOHRAN. If you told me in 2024 I would be finding myself often agreeing with Stacey K in 2026, I'd be most bewildered. ZOHRAN played a long game well so far. Like, critique him obviously, but also don't assume you know what he's cooking. I've always been blue no matter who, but what you didn't know in 2024 is that I meant that wokely. How's defending ZOHRAN riding for the regime? I love that there is no productive discourse to be had on any website, really, and especially on Twitter, because most of the time you're basically battling people who are either professionally misunderstanding you or too stupid to understand your point. My point is, ZOHRAN is my guy, not your guy, right? You're the type of person who says this is too woke. This is too pie in the sky. You stand in opposition to someone like ZOHRAN until they win. And when they win, you're like, now ZOHRAN is my guy. So much so that you refuse to even apply any sort of constructive criticism to anything that this elected is doing. And that's what's fucking awesome. Me and my dog, who I've never electrocuted. Yeah, no, I know. She's not a fan. I don't really care about that. Sort of thing at all. I just, I will defend her rights unconditionally, regardless of the fact that her politics is so disastrously bad that it probably will elect the most transphobic administration possible. Either it's a Democratic administration that's leaning into the transphobia of the Republicans, or the maximalist transphobic Republican administration. I will still be out there fighting for her rights regardless, right? But that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make here is that these people do not have the ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism. The only reason why it looks like they have some sort of ideological commitment to third way neoliberalism is because they are incapable of thinking for themselves. They're incapable of having a political machination that is totally separate from whatever the party, one of the two planks in this country, in our current duopoly, is representing. So if the Democratic Party turned into a communist party tomorrow, magically, a lot of the people that are vote blue no matter who would be communist. They would be saying better red than dead. They would be advocating for full tilt communism, luxury communism. That's my point. My point is these people don't actually have any political machinations, any interest in like an affirmative vision. They're constantly on the defense. Yes, as the chatter said, they are loyal, unthinking soldiers, but that's a good thing. You need people like that. You do need people like that. You need some cadres. Yeah, she's literally an apparatchik, lol. Exactly. So my point is, I welcome them because they play a major role in the grand design that I have and that many of you, I think, understand at this point, which is dramatically reshaping American politics by exhausting one of the options that we have in the duopoly that exists and getting these regime loyalists to defend that perspective. Same with the average Republican voters who don't care about billionaire tax cuts and defund the public sector. They simply want to be lounge with the side of power. Yes, I think the vast majority of the voting population have no personal opinion about how this country should run or what a decent future for this country would look like. They have no grand design. They have no ideological commitment to anything. They're simply operating on a defensive posture. The voters, I mean. They're followers. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You need a yeah-based guy. You need many yeah-based guys. And these are our yeah-based soldiers. These are the people who see themselves as intellectually a cut above the Republicans, These are the people who look at the Republicans and the MAGA base and go, oh, they're a cult. They're so stupid. They're such a violent cult. And there's truth to that. The Republicans are a violent cult. But they also operate under the same cultish thinking, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a necessary and good thing. All it would take for these people to defend and preach the gospel of socialism or communism would be if the Democratic Party was a communist party or a socialist party. Not saying that that'll happen. As I have said over and over again, if Bernie Sanders had won in 2016, the Democratic primary, every single one of these, like, oh, I'm never voting for a socialist ass people, I'm pro Hillary Clinton ass people, would have become major Bernie dick riders. The evidence for this suggestion comes from 2008, because when Hillary Clinton had a diehard cult-like fan base, the overwhelming majority of the Democrats voted excitedly for Barack Obama and became lifelong Barack Obama stans. They're just fucking loyalists. What they see in front of them magically becomes totally available and in the realm of possibility and something that they demand. They are the ones who lack the vision. They are the ones who are not audacious enough to dream. But you need people like that. You got too many dreamers, too many yearners, too many ideological delineations, and all of a sudden you have too many problems, too many cooks in the kitchen. So my point is, we shouldn't be spending a good deal of time trying to fucking yell at these people. We should work to identify how we can get them on board in the primary structure to vote for the most left candidates possible by pumping them full of the electability argument. And that's it. Now, of course, they get their notes from mainstream media, and mainstream media, for the most part, is still very much committed to the think tanks that churn out policy papers with regular frequency, that have a very clear vision of defending liberalism, defending third-way neoliberalism in particular. So you just have to do your very best to continue pumping it. These same idiots join the bandwagon and do left bashing every chance they get. Fuck them. Yeah. But they don't do it because they have a serious liberal commitment. Do you understand? That's my point. They do left bashing because they're learning that from MSNBC. They're learning that from the mainstream resources that they're reading. They would not be engaging in left bashing if all of the readily available resources was, repeating the things that I'm saying, for example. My point is they're an empty vessel.